Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Andrew Townsend. I'm the Campaign Marketing Manager here at eLearning Brothers. Today's session is going to be about some tips and tricks in After Effects templates that we have here at eLearning Brothers. This session will be recorded, and we'll email a copy of that recording out to everybody who has registered. So you can be looking for that later in the day, and we will also post it on our site sometime later in the week. So if you want to come back and review it there, you can find it at elearningbrothers.com. If you'd like to participate, if you have questions during the webinar, comments, things like that, please use the questions panel in the GoToWebinar control panel there on the side of your screen. And it looks like one of you found it. Hello, and thanks for joining us. So please do use that, as we'll be asking for your feedback and questions throughout. All right, so to talk to us about After Effects, we have Jonica Rich, the motion specialist on our custom development team, with us today. Thanks for joining us, Jonica. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass the screen over to you.
Thank you, Andrew. Show my screen. All right. First, we're going to jump into how to find on the eLearning Brothers library, how to find these After Effects templates. You'll type in library.elearningbrothers.com. It'll take you to this page. The way that I like to access it, there are a few different ways. The way I prefer is I come into the asset library here, and I go down to the stock asset library, and then to video. This opens up all these different categories of video that we have and backgrounds, and then over here in this tab you find the After Effects templates. Again, categories of types of templates that you could use depending on what your needs will be for that template. For instance, maybe you just want to add a typography element to your course or your slide or whatever the purpose will be. Now, what we're going to cover in this is how to use one of these that you could use as an intro. We'll treat it as if we're going to use it as an intro in a course. But then we're also going to treat it as if you want to use a separate typography template and move one of these into an existing course. So let's say I already downloaded some for use, just in case I ran into any problems with downloading, but we'll go ahead and click into one of these. So we can look at some examples. If you hover over the thumbnail, it will show you a preview of what to expect in that. And this is actually the one that we're going to be using. You can see I've previously downloaded it. So once you look at it a little bit and you decide, yeah, that's something I can work with, you'll go ahead and download it, or you can click on it and get some more information about it, some keywords that help you get there. And one of the things that I want you to keep in mind when you're looking at these thumbnails is that you shouldn't be choosing one of these based on the imagery, because that's just stock imagery that is for an example. Do it based on the design effects that you see. That will help you to pick the one that's really what you're going for. Like if you want a collage of sorts, or if you want this text over here with that's what you're looking at, not what the picture is of. This could be an image of a kid's soccer game, and it wouldn't matter because that's not what you'll be keeping. So we'll go into here, and this file, it's an After Effects template file. And you'll download that. And I've already done so. I've got it in this webinar file that I've created. So that downloaded as this video blocks event as a zipped file, and you'll need to extract it. I'm working on a PC, so go in and extract that. Click extract all, you'll tell it where to save. When I'm working in files, I really like to make sure that I have good organization going on. It makes the project just go smoother, and when you have to go back to it, when inevitably someone will want changes made, you'll know exactly where to find the files. It'll be, so start out from the very beginning, start out with good file organization. So I've unzipped this file, extracted it, and here it is. And when you open up these files, you will see there's a few things to look at. This is a preview just showing the same preview that we saw on the thumbnail. And then this,
only way bigger and way cooler.
Right? And then this is a video tutorial that kind of breaks down how to use it, but we're going to do it in a lot more depth because this video is only 3 minutes and 12 seconds long. And I'll talk you through how to really break down the file and get into to feel like you have control of it rather than it has control of you. So this footage file is the assets. You will not need to go into there. I'll click it open just so you can see this is the types of things they use. This is the placeholder that we'll see when we open up the After Effects file. And so let's go ahead and click that open. Andrew, I'm having this, I guess the webinar panel on the side of my screen.
No, there's an orange arrow. You can click to shrink that.
Ah, thank you. Okay. Project is open, and we will, over here, you can see these different files that we have available. There are the assets, and this is something right here. It specifies you can ignore, but we're gonna look at it because we don't want to be scared of the unknown or intimidated by. That's something that you need to understand is a lot of times when you're working in programs like After Effects, it feels like there are infinite possibilities and you have no idea what they are, and it feels kind of suffocating. But I want you to understand that it is finite and that you can be in control of the program rather than it being in control of you. So these are just some assets that they use in here, but we don't need to touch that at all for right now even. So here's rendering. This is showing that this composition right here, the final comp, is what we will be rendering when it's time to render, because there are multiple pre-compositions housed within that composition. It starts out with this one color. So I find that I prefer to go along the file trail through the working field down here. So I'll double click on that and it opens up this other composition that's housed within the final comp. The reason that they have this is to make sure that when you are rendering it out, that you're not rendering out one of these compositions in here. For instance, if I was rendering just this one, I had this one open, and then I would render it out, it would only render out this 6-second little clip rather than the entire combination of all of these clips. So I like to click on there, it opens up that composition, and then within this one, I'll find, if you scroll down, you can see the timeline here has this composition overlapping with that one. You usually build from the bottom up because the layer above will cover the layer below. And so in this scene 1 that will appear first, the scene 2 right here where this timeline is will enter the screen and cover up the one beneath it. And so that's why it is in this ascending progression. So when we open up scene 1, well, I'm gonna open up scene 1 because that's where we're gonna start. Usually you start at the beginning. So if you scroll down here where the timeline is, you can see that this is the first composition. And then as you go along, if you ever find one that you want to, you're scrolling, here I'll scroll up so you can't see, but you're scrolling along in this, this is at a quarter rendering right here. That's why when we look at these, they look pixelated. It helps the rendering to go along faster. If yours is buffering really slowly, you can change, it might be on full. You can see it's a lot crisper now. And that doesn't matter when you're rendering, you don't have to change it to full. It will always render out in full, but this is for your own viewing. You can keep it at quarter, half, whatever you'd like. I'll go ahead and change it to third, because why not?
Third is bigger than
quarter. Oh yeah, you're right. So then we've got, you're scrolling along, you see one you like, and you're not sure, you want to work in that one, or you need to make an edit in that specific moment of the timeline, and you see where it's aligned. You can see that it's in this pre-comp, so you'll click on this pre-comp and open it up. But right now we're going to start at the beginning. We know it's this one, we know it's scene 1. I've double clicked it already so it opened up here. And what we will do, there are these other pre-compositions housed within this, and there are things, we'll start in the text. Here we have this example text that they've provided in the template, and we will go ahead and edit it. Now, sometimes people just click in there and erase the whole thing and enter their text, but say you want this exact color, I would suggest adding your text after it and then going back and erasing the new one. And as well, you see that it has an effect on it right now. If you click up here in this panel, and this is in the default setting, I'm sure, this shows the project properties, the files and folders that you have imported, but then there's this effects control. If you can't see it, if you click these arrows, it'll show you what things are available on that tab. So we're going into the effect controls. And then we will look in here. If you, when you click on an item in this window, if you hit U, it'll show you any of the existing, just plain the key U. It'll show any of the keyframes that have been placed on that element. And if you hit U again, it will hide them. If you hit U twice, it will expand them completely. Even showing here, you can see there's an expression, and that's what we're seeing here on the character offset is the expression control. You don't need to worry about this. This is things that you can find here in the over in this panel where you can find the effects. Ooh, content fill aware. We might have to do that for another webinar. The content aware fill is where if you have a video and there's an item in it you don't want shown, you can hide it even as the video progresses.
But that's more just general Captivate, or not Captivate, sorry.
After Effects
tip as opposed to this particular template.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
But it's a good one, so we might want to save it for later. So here in the effects is where you'll find things like down here it's got text, and you can assign some of these expressions.
So what exactly is an expression then?
Okay, an expression is mathematical, often assigning it how much, for instance here this wiggle 30 and 50 is probably the x-axis and the y-axis of how much it wants these characters to move over the course of these over the course of this timeline. It's yes. Did that answer your question enough? Some of them are really complicated, and you look at them and they're like 6 lines long. You don't even want to touch them. But this one is a pretty simple one.
Sure. Yeah, I think that answers my question. But are they all going to say something like wiggle or?
No, some of them will be gibberish. But you aren't creating them. The computer's creating them, and that's a pretty advanced level. So we'll go ahead and ignore that for now. So this has got the wiggly offset and this assignment of how it wants the text to go if you care to change that. But we like this effect. That's why we chose this template. So this is one of the things though that I wanted you to understand when looking at After Effects and being intimidated is these little drop down arrows. Go ahead and click them. Find out what's in there. Eventually they end. And then that's all there is. And you've reached the depths of After Effects. It's just 3 clicks in. It's not 50 clicks in like you may have assumed and been intimidated by. So we don't need to change any of this stuff. We don't need to even see those. I hit U, just so you know, the hotkey U. We don't even need to see those. So if you're trying to edit the text, but it's in the middle of this expression where it's doing this cool effect, you're like, I don't know what I've typed. So if you just scroll out further in the timeline to when the expression is completed, then you will be able to see the text. You can see how I edited that to say 2020, and we'll say, let's change this. What should we call it? Course. Oh, just a tip. I hit caps lock just then when I was typing that to match this. And if you continue working in After Effects with your caps lock on, it freezes the rendering. And so you'll try to make it do something and it won't be doing it because you have caps lock on. It locks the function. So just make sure your caps lock is off if you ever turn it on. When you're done using it, make sure you turn it off. So we've edited that. Let's say you do want to edit the color. You can see here, I accidentally created an extra, and this is good. I was hoping things would go wrong so we could address it, because when you're working on it, you're watching a tutorial online, they'll often have everything worked out perfectly, but when you're doing it yourself, things go wrong. You're like, how did that happen? So this is good. So I accidentally we're working on the text function here, the text type tool, and I accidentally created another text box. And if I type, you'll see that it appeared there. But we didn't want that to happen. So go ahead and click on it and hit delete. And then if you double click on this, it will get you back into this text box so you can edit in there. Now, let's say I want to change the color of this. Come back over here. We'll double click in this, in the character window. We'll double click in there and change the color. Let's say we want some more orange for ELB. And go, I really don't like that color. Actually, we'll go ahead and change that a little bit more orange. Go ahead and leave that blue because they're contrasting colors, complementary colors. And then we will go ahead and go back into scene 1. You can see that the text there has changed. And then these text elements, we will not need, you don't need to edit, but they are these just little boxes here that you'll see that are kind of an effect to give it the, as it's playing, it looks like it's technical and as if it's rendering some really high-tech information as it's presenting your images. I feel like there was one other thing I was going to do in this course title thing here, but unless I remember, we'll go ahead and go back. Oh, yes, I remember now. So if you ever can't find one of the windows you want over here, like you couldn't find this character window in the panel, if you come up to window, you can see all of these types of windows are available for you to see, and you can find the character in alphabetical order here. Click on that, and then it'll make it apparent for you if you couldn't find it. That's what it was. I added another.
A quick question has popped up. We're noticing that the source name is changed based on your edits. So as you're changing the text there under source name, that's being changed as well.
Yes.
Could we maybe easier edit the source name and have that edit on the slide, or does it only go one way?
You can have this source name have a different title than what is on there. If I rename this, let's see what happens. Alphabet. It changes the name of this item down here in the layer names, but the text there, yeah, stays the same. It's when you double click in it, it opens up here. So until you've changed the name of it, it will default to show the text that appears on the screen. And then, cool. Good question. Thank you for the questions. All right, going down. So if you really want to be able to customize this very specifically to your needs, you can see that this has a mask on it. It's got a track mat to an alpha that's called Shape Layer 1, but I don't see Shape Layer 1 in this timeline. How am I supposed to edit it? Where did it go? Okay, here's the thing. I just added another text box. The reason that happened is because I still have this text tool selected. So you'll need to make sure you select the selection tool by either clicking here or using the hotkey V. So I'll go ahead and erase that so it's not confusing. We're in that selection tool. The reason that is that there's this shy guy here. And if you click on the shy guy, switch, these hidden items will appear. They usually do that because it just overwhelms you if you have 50 items here in the files. And they're ones that you aren't going to be changing. And so you will click on those, it'll open it up. That's if you want to be changing it. And then you can also hide some yourself if you've already finished. Hang on, this little thing is in my way. Okay, so when you select this box, these boxes, it'll expand all the options here. And if you want to hide some items, you click on them, and then when you select the shy guy, it'll hide those as well. But I don't want that one hidden, and we're gonna go ahead and hide those ones back. So this is different than this item over here. This is the hiding and this is the shying. And so this will just hide it on the screen from your vision, and this hides it over in this panel so that you aren't overwhelmed with the number of files over there. All right, we did the text. I'm gonna go ahead and close that. Let's say we want to now edit the images. So let's start with image 1. Open up that pre-comp. You can see it has a placeholder 1. It says place your image here. Now we're going to start importing some images. I've created, within this file that I made, because I like the organization, an assets folder. I'll go ahead and show you a bit at a time rather than importing the entire folder. So when you're in the project, you click on the project here in this window and it will open this panel. And then we're gonna get some of these images. I could do the whole thing at once. All right, I chose, when I was preparing for this webinar, it was a very, very cold day. It was like 12 degrees and my toes were frozen to the bone. So I decided to use some beach images for the fun of it. I love winter, but I also love variety. So we're going with this beach theme. Yeah, we'll go ahead and import all of these. So you can either just drag that over like this, and it'll import that file, all of those images. Actually, I don't. Okay, it imported them all as. We're gonna do that differently. Imported all of them as one item, so we're not gonna do that. So go ahead and just get in there and select them all. I pushed Control A. If you're on a Mac, it will be Command, I believe. Now these are here. Since we're not going to be using this anymore, just go ahead and delete that. If you like, and I do like, create a folder in which to place all of those assets. And see, it's different than this one that they have. This will be your own to work in, and this is the template assets. So let's go ahead and place those in there. Now I'll just go ahead and pick a random one. We put it in here. Now I wanted to show you this. When I drop it down here, you're like, where is it? I can't see it. Remember, these hide the ones above, hide the ones beneath. So you can move this up here, or you can erase this one because it's just a placeholder. We'll go ahead and erase it, doesn't matter. You can see that your image is outside of this bounding area, the viewable area. And so if you hit the hotkey S, it will show you scale. If you can't remember that, if you just hit down, it'll show you all of these ways to transform the image, and then you can click on scale from there. You can either drag along here these percentages, and it will change the image shape, size, scale rather, and then you can come up here on this viewable and click on that. I'm holding Shift. I clicked a corner and I'm holding Shift, so it will maintain its bounding box. Otherwise, it will warp the image. I don't want to do that. I hit undo with Control Z. So I have it so that it's pretty close to the edges, looks good. I like the alignment. It's got the thirds going on, so we're gonna leave it like that. So we go back to scene 1 so you can see what that did. It replaced this spot right here that has been assigned for this pre-comp. And so now we'll continue to scene 2. I won't do all of these. I'll just show you a few examples so you can understand. Place this up here or erase it. Oh, that's nice. And then I'll hit S on the hotkey for scale. I'm going to scale that down a little bit. And maybe I want to move it up. I'm hitting Shift. I'm holding down Shift while I push the up button. That makes it jump by increments of 10 rather than 1. So if I hit 1 at a time, it moves slower. If I hold down the Shift key, it moves 10 at a time. 10 pixel spaces. So now we'll go back to the scene. And you can see that it's replaced this image. So you'll continue to do that down through all of these images. And it will, when you play this pre-comp, I'll zoom through and showing these images. That could really, really beautiful. We might complete that later if there's enough time. Now, going back, we've got the text how we want it. We have the images in. So we'll go back to color. We've finished, let's say we've finished scene 1. Then we'll move on to scene 2. Actually, now I'm looking at the time, we're going to go ahead and show you if you want to bring in an element from another After Effects template. So we went in here and we downloaded this in the ELB library. And let's go back through this way so you can see. We're going back through the stock asset library and the videos. After Effects templates, and we want to bring in one of these typography elements. It shows different ones. If you scroll over them, it shows the examples. If you click in them, it does as well. And then I found one in here. It was simple modern design, something not glitch. It was such as one of these. And I thought, I really like that element. I want to put that in my template that I have, but this is a different template. So we're going to discover how to do that. So you can either hit download here and select this file, or you can open it like we showed and select from here. Now, let's go ahead and add it to scene 1 because we've already been working on that. Close these and go on our timeline. Let's say we want to change this text out for a different text. You could either do that in the text or add a pre-comp on here. What we're going to do is go to our file. I have downloaded this minimal titles is what it was called. I've unzipped it. And then here, if you're working on a Mac, it has a folder that you'll want to open from this Mac file. But because I'm on a PC, I'll open here. And then again, there's that preview video. And we're going to go ahead and take this and just drag it over into our project panel. It will make a folder. And if you, this is saying we're missing the fonts, and that's okay. We're not worried about that right now. Open this up. It'll show you these compositions. Now, I know that I want animation 4. So I'm going to go ahead and open that. But if you don't know what one you want because it doesn't show the examples, you can open up this demo comp and it has all of them. And then you can scroll through like this and be like, or allow it to play and be like, yes, I like that one. That's the one I want to use. Or you can allow it to continue to play. Shows the next one. You might want that one, but I know we want this one. And we know that's animation 4. So you can either double click here to open it, or I just opened it from this folder. You don't need the demo comp. All right, so there's a new thing here. Oh, and check this out. The sky's blue. So if you're looking at this and you think, yeah, I want to change this clean design, I want it to have a longer word. Maybe it will be, oops, caps on, punctilious. That's a longer word. But it cuts off. And so how do we adjust this box? Because all I see here is this control and this punctilious and this design. And I can't, if I click on this, I can't select this box. Why can't I select this box? So this guy right here is what you'll be looking for. He's showing that there are some hidden elements. Click on that and now they're revealed. And you can see that this box is locked.
What is that button called again?
Shy guy?
Shy guy.
I don't know if it's called shy guy. It's called shy.
But you call it shy guy.
I do. Because it looks like this little guy with his nose.
Good to know.
And then he's shy.
Okay. I get you.
There's a lot going on here with this in and out, and you might not want to show that. This is where you control what ones you want to have shown or not. I clicked it away because I like to see more of my timeline. All right, so we wanted to change this box. I unlocked, they were locked over here after I unshied them, and you can move it so that it will, oh, okay, look, this is it. Caps lock is on, it won't refresh the view, so I have to hit the caps lock off. I'm glad that actually happened. Now, you can see that this hasn't moved, but you move the box. That's because there is a mask applied to it, which is hiding, it's the null, and it's hiding the, oh my goodness, there's a little thing in the way I can't see. You click here, you can see that null, and you can do the matte. This is what is showing the text because it's got the alpha here set to this box. And so punctilious is only showing what is showing in this bounding box. And so if you want to adjust it, you can adjust it like that, and then you go ahead and hide that back up, and now it will show it. You don't even need to see it. You don't need to show it. I was just showing you so you could understand where that was coming from. Problem with this, if it's something complicated like that, it will, when the element begins to spin, you have to change the bounding box. Oh, that one worked perfectly. Never mind. Sometimes the bounding box will move differently than the other elements. You'll just have to make sure you adjust those, but that worked just great. Yay. All right, moving back to the scene, we'll go ahead and look at it. Wait, that was in animation 4. So we just changed it in animation 4. Now we're gonna go into here. We'll go ahead and go back in, we'll edit in the text. I'm just gonna hide this over here because maybe we do want that after we realize we put this in, we realize it was actually better the other way. So we'll place this in. This looks like it's going to take up the entire screen, so we'll go ahead and adjust the scale a little bit, make it so it's taking up a better portion of the screen so it's not so intimidating. Going back into scene 1, now we have this element here. And you can see how we changed. We brought in a different text feature from a different composition After Effects project, a completely different After Effects project. It just imports it as a folder, and then all the compositions within there are available for you to use in your project that you have already created. One of the other things, we haven't saved these yet, so I'll go ahead and address that. When I am saving a project, right at the beginning, I usually save it as the title that I want it to be under. In case I mess up, then I have this original file available to return to that I haven't destroyed. So I'll save it as whatever my project title is, and then wherever I want it, and continue inside of that new named folder. And then I'm not destroying the original in case I need to go back to it. All right. We will go into, let's show now real quick. This one has one, and it's a scene 2 has the other one had like 9 something elements in it. This one just has the one video. So we'll go ahead. We know those are all text by how they're titled. We'll go into this image, and we're going to try placing a video in here. So we'll go to our folder, and in our assets, I had grabbed a few videos, just some random different, let's see. Let's go ahead and drag this one over in here into our assets. And there you can see it is. We'll drag it down here into our composition. You can either line that, erase it, or just leave it. It doesn't matter. It's just hanging out there in the background, not being shown, so it doesn't really matter. You can see again that our video is being, because it's a high resolution, which is how it should be, most of it's cut off. Go ahead and hit S after you've selected it. It'll show us the scale. You can bring it down size if you want it like that. Maybe there's this jogger in the image right here that you don't want, and that's where this content aware fill would be handy. I would place a mask over him, and it would track it so that he would not be showing. But if I don't, another way, if I don't want that, I just zoom in, and then I don't have to deal with him. All right, going back to the scene. Now we have this image here. And you can see that he's showing because this has a scale on it as well in the composition. I hit S on the hotkeys to reveal that. Let's say we don't like the background color. I click here, but it didn't open the background color because this is covering that space. And so what you need to do is just go ahead and select down on here. And it shows in the effect control panel here. We've got the stroke color, and we've got the overlay color. Ooh, this one is good. So this overlay, this is showing why it looks kind of, the sky looks kind of dark and gray rather than bright blue. This does in fact have an overlay. If I click here, I can see what it looks like without it, or click in it and change the color of the overlay. You can see all that's going on, but we're going to cancel that. Another place that appears, if you do this drop down button in the effects, you can see all of these same elements are down here, but you can see more within it. For instance, this overlay color has an opacity. There it is. It's up here as well, I believe. Opacity. And it's at 30%. You can see if I scroll up, that overlay is covering the whole thing, but maybe I just want it off entirely. So I'll turn that off. I just clicked here and dragged it till it was at the end of the slider. And now this picture's a little brighter and looks a little better. So these are types of things that you can look for when you're opening in a template. So I want you to feel like you have control of what's going on with it, so you can customize it completely. The background color here, we see this blue is the background that's behind this element, and we can see this color matches that, so we know that's what it is. Or if you turn this off, sometimes it'll toggle it. We can double click in here, adjust it. If you have the hex, you can type the hex in there. We don't love that color, it's just an example. Maybe the blue wasn't so bad that we had before. Too much orange to complement, also too much. We'll go back to the blue. Okay. If you don't want any color there at all, the composition defaults to a background color when you render the file. you can find that in the composition settings. If you go up here and you go to composition settings, it shows you what the default background color is. This one is black. So if you removed this background color, it might appear white on your screen here, but then it'll end up rendering out black. So you have to be certain that your background color is the color that you want, or that you have a layer. If you come here and you put in a new layer, you could put in a solid layer that will cover the entire width and height of the screen, the dimensions of the screen, and assign it the color that you want it to be, and just leave it in the background with no effects assigned to it. It just stays there, and then you can be certain that it'll be the color in the background that you want. Okay, moving on, we'll see what else is in here. Ooh, we almost got the same color there. That was an accident. Let's say we like that effect, except that is definitely not in New York. So let's go ahead and change the text. Let's just say.
So what? Are we gonna find your favorite beach now?
I don't.
Oh, not Cabo.
I'm more of a mountain girl. I don't know. I might be going to Hawaii this year for the first time ever. So I'm kind of excited about that. And I'm just gonna go with it. We're gonna say Hawaii, December 2020. Hoping it happens. All right, so we can close the image, we've done that. Close the text, we've done that. Going back to the scene by itself so we can see, we'll go ahead and play it. Oh, did you guys notice what happened there? This is perfect. Again, one of those things that goes wrong. You're like, wait, what happened? I thought I zoomed it in. So the image does this weird zoom right here. If we open this up and we hit U, it'll show the keyframes. So if you remember, I zoomed in closer to cut off the jogger. And this is where I had the line, the bar, the scrub bar was lined up here on the timeline. And so it created a keyframe. Once you have a keyframe placed for any of the elements that you can change, for instance, if I change the position, I hit P on the hotkeys for position. So there aren't any because it's not moving position. It was just zooming, basically, the scaling the image. But if I wanted the image to also move from, let's say, over here, and then as it gets to here, I want it to move, or if I click here, all I have to do is start moving the image and it automatically creates a keyframe. You have a question?
Yeah, so a quick question on your project in general. A lot of people in our audience are Captivate users primarily, and so they're noticing Adobe standard stuff in here. Is this automatically saving, or do you need to manually save periodically, or how does the save for an 80 file work?
You will need to save, but if it does happen to shut down on you, it has a backup. I forget, my mind blank what they call it, but it has, yeah, and those are another lesson in themselves. but it does. You will need to save, and that's kind of something I like to do, is just after I do any change, I just hit Control S. I make a change, I hit Control S, and that's why I like to start by naming the file with whatever I want the file title to be, because then every time I make a change, I hit Control S. And so you see the position of this is changing. We don't want to, oh, that was the scale that was changing. Yes, so I forgot that went to position. Let's go back to scale. I hit S again, and we'll go ahead and erase this starting one, which was where it was zooming from. We'll go ahead and erase this one. Boop. And now it's got, it's staying. It's not scaling. It is slightly, but that's the scale that we have in the image in this pre-comp. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and erase that too. I want you to see something. If I have this set at, let's see, I scaled it like this, and I have that set, and then I have it over here, and I have it scaled like this, and I wanted it to be at this setting. If I erase one of these before the other, it goes to whichever one the scroll. You have to make sure that you're on the one you want it to be on. So if I want it to be this setting, it goes to whichever it's showing. So the order that you erase those matters sometimes is my point. Where the scrub bar is in relation to where the keyframes are does matter sometimes. All right, let's see. Let's watch a little bit, see if we can think of where we're going. That's nice. I like that. Now let's see how it works back here in this color comp where it has them all combined. It goes from this one that we made the changes in, and then to the next one. It doesn't go that slowly. You can see here the screen is showing what has been rendered. And so once you go over it, it goes kind of slow sometimes, especially when you have audio. You can hear it. The person will be talking, and they'll be like this. So if you, with the video, you can see the screen shows where it's. So once you go back over, click in there, it'll go at a regular speed. But if it's here at the start or somewhere where it hasn't rendered yet, it's going slower. So don't let that fool you on your time. As well, if you don't want it to try to be rendering the entire thing at once, which can bog down your computer, you can have it in a work area. And then it will only render what is in that area, and it will go more quickly. And it won't worry about rendering the entire project. And that can be useful when you have a long project, and it just repeats right within this work area. And you can check and make sure it's doing what you want it to do. Ooh, that I really do like that. Okay. Move the work area back out. Audio. Last element we need to address is audio. Make sure we get that in, and then we'll open for questions. So let's keep going with this Hawaii and beach theme. Going up here, you can see this is in the effects. Let's click on project so we can drag some audio elements into the folder. Go back to my assets I had gathered. In the ELB library, if you go into the stock assets library, you can find this audio tab. You have all these different genres as well as moods or specific instruments you want. I don't remember what I chose here, but let's go ahead and click on guitar, and then let's say I wanted beach. You add that to the end of it, and it helps you select, it helps narrow it down. Maybe you want beach and relaxing, let's see if that does anything. And you can just narrow it down by adding keywords that you think might help. You click on that, you can either hover over this and then select from there, or you can open it up. When you hover over it, is it playing on it plays that song so you can get a preview of what it sounds like. I'm sorry if it was just doing a bunch of sounds at you right then. I don't have the audio on my head, so I didn't hear if it did that. I apologize.
So they wouldn't have heard that audio, but I'm sure that it's awesome.
If you're going over several at once, it might be overwhelming. Take it easy on the scrolling. Okay, so I've selected some. Let's go ahead and do this acoustic loop. Ooh, this is ambiance that I added here, and that was just to make the effect seem more real. So we have this acoustic loop. We'll drag it into our assets here. And it shows up there. We want it in this. We don't want it in color because this is where we have the pre-comps. We want it specifically in not scene 1, but scene 2. We'll go ahead and close these so there's not as much confusion. And this is if you just want the audio for just this slide. So if we're watching color and the audio is changing for each slide, we probably wouldn't do that. So we'll go ahead and I changed my mind. We're going to put it in color. I like to put that audio just at the bottom because it doesn't show anything, and it's just a handy place to know. That's where I always look. You can mute it while you're watching, but otherwise, while you're previewing and you're playing this, it will play the audio. So you can mute it here so you don't have to listen to it while you're still working on your project, so you don't have to listen to a loop of a song over and over and over. To play this, I'm hitting the space bar. Each time I play the slide, it's just I'm hitting the space bar, pausing it, and playing with the space bar. So sometimes the music is kind of loud, or maybe you have some narration going along with the audio and it's drowning it out. So you'd want to go ahead and click this button down, and it shows you what the options are. If you know what you're looking for, you can hit the hotkey for it. But with the audio, it's not. Sometimes I think, is it D for decibels? I'm not sure. So I usually just open up those drop downs. And then in audio levels, when you have a narration over some music, the background music, I find that I like it to be about -10. It quiets it just enough that you can still hear it, but that it's not drowning out the narration. And so if we push play and you can hear it, it's a little bit quieter. I'm going to go ahead, you can't hear it because I had it muted. And then it'll play this. And maybe I want specifically on scene 2 as well, I want the beach sounds. And so I would go and get this ambiance that I downloaded and place it in the assets. Drag that here, and then this will play specifically during this slide. So it won't play on this one, but then when it gets to this one, it'll play the beach. It's just the waves crashing. All right, we've covered video, we've covered imagery, making some customizing, importing a new or a separate text element, and I think it's okay to go ahead and open up for questions now if anyone has anything they'd like explained further, please speak up.
It doesn't look like we've got any questions about what you're doing here. I think everybody's just kind of soaking it in. There's been a lot of information that you've given us in the last 45 minutes. Are there any just general After Effects tips and tricks that you could give us? You said you potentially were going to go in and talk about, man, I already forgot what it was called.
The content fill away?
Yeah, the content aware.
No. That one's a completely, that will take too much time. So we could do that in
That's
another
2.5 hour discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, I get you.
Yeah. But knowing that it exists and is something that we could do in the future, it helps to erase elements in an image you don't want. Maybe there's a like just a person in the image that you don't want in there, or a street sign or something like that you don't want in there that's ruining the image, or a light pole or things like that just ruin the image.
What about if I'm just starting in After Effects? Do you think that diving into these templates is a good way to start and try to figure out how things work?
I do, because it can show you, like, let's look at this slide, for example. If you just wanted this plain old Hawaii or beach scene showing in the background, and then that was all you were playing on your course. Now look at this. Look at how much more. We'll go ahead and go back in here. Like, engaging this experience is. That one doesn't have these effects that are being applied in this mat. Open that up, you can see there are these effects in the mats that are being showing. But I feel like it creates a much greater experience for the learner or the viewer, or whatever reason you're using these templates. It makes it look like you're a professional designer, but you're just using someone, and that's what they're for. It's not cheating. You're allowing someone else to do the hard work, and then you just plug in your image and your words, and you can customize the colors a little. Just those 3 simple steps: changing the image, the text, and possibly the color, makes these templates so that you can customize them to fit your brand or your course, and it makes them much more engaging. We use these a lot for intros to lessons, intros to an entire course, or to each chapter, intros to a new activity, and it just, I mean, think about it, it makes it much more engaging. I really enjoy using these.
There's a question here. If you only wanted a portion of the template, so it looks like you've got all of those different layers and it goes for a while, how do you make it so you only are editing that one part?
I'm glad that you asked that. That was actually one of the notes I was going to touch on. So let's say we really don't like this beginning one. We want it to start here on this Hawaii one. So you can click on that and erase it, but then you've got this problem, this blank error basically here. So you can select, I'm going to go ahead and hit select all, and then unselect that audio there. And you can either just drag it over. There are a few different ways to do this. This is the most simple. Drag it over, and then it will begin. All right, now we can see that had that entrance effect of when it was shifting and taking over the other one that existed before it. So what we'll do, select on this, go ahead and hit U, and it shows that it's got this position change. Now, if I erase this here, this keyframe, it messes it up. It defaults to that one. This is where I was talking about where it matters where your scrub bar is and when you erase them. So we'll just go ahead and erase this, and now we've got it so that it starts. That must have a little bit on the scene one as well. Yep, it also has a position change. So we'll go ahead and erase that as well. Now it starts out with it right there, and it doesn't slide in. Scoot that over a tad. Now, if you want it to begin with a fade, fading in because you erased that beginning one, you don't want it to just jump right into the video. Maybe you want the video to fade in. while you have the scene selected, if you hit T for transparency, it will bring up the opacity, which is funny that it's T for transparency, but it titles it opacity. Another way to find that, again, is if you hit the drop down, and then you can find it there. So I will assign it. I want it to fade in, maybe just about there. And so I will assign it a keyframe at 100% there, and then I'll go back to the beginning, and I want it to be at 0% there. So I'll start, and it'll fade in. It's just a gentler start. So that's ways to accomplish that, removing those. And you'll do that the same. If you wanted to remove this middle one, then you would erase it, scoot them all over, and so that it overlaps it just like these all do, and the elements will overlap over the other ones. Some of them, like this one, you see that these both are assigned. That one's assigned to drop. If I hit the U, we'll see it's got a position change here that's moving it down. At the same time, this is moving down, but on this one, it just zooms in over it. So you have to take that into account. And so maybe this one's dropping down over another one. And so you want to change the one below it. If you erase the one below it, you want to change this one to drop down as well. Sometimes they flow just fine. For instance, this can still drop over that one. Whoops. Okay, I'm gonna show you this. If you double click on an element like this and it opens up this window with all these, and you're like, what is going on? How do I get out of here? I can't tell what to do. Look up here in this window. It's got this element in exclusive mode. My mind went blank what it's called. You just click there and it takes you back to the composition. So that's what I had done. I accidentally double click on that. Okay, so we will move this one over so it overlaps there. Now you can see this one is gonna slide down, and that's okay. The other one below it doesn't need to slide down. It still works just fine. So you can find that sometimes they'll work together. You might have to adjust them if they don't. Does that answer the question sufficiently?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
A quick question has popped up that I think I'll just grab. Would you compare using this tool to Camtasia? The answer to that is no. Camtasia is more of just a video editor, kind of like a Premiere, Adobe Premiere. After Effects is more of a graphics editor. It's more like I don't know, how would you describe it? It's an effects editor, not necessarily just a time. I mean, it'll do video timeline, sure.
It's more for post-production, and Camtasia is for production. It's to add these effects. So for instance, before, when you can see that these this video is hidden, you can see these effects here, and then as well how they show up in these are in these effect controls. Oh boy. Anyway, these have been applied to this, and over all of them, these different elements. Oh, I know, I can show you where they were. They were in these assets. Not my assets, the ones that we're supposed to ignore. We're gonna mess with them. So like, let's click in there, and you can see they have these dots that are appearing, and those are the effects that we're seeing over this color. They're in these pre-comps, and so those elements, like to create those yourself, look at this. Imagine how long that would take rather than just using a template. But look at how much more it adds to all these effects with these screens, and it just makes it more professional looking and more enjoyable, I find. So it saves a lot of time using templates, a lot of time, hundreds of hours.
Okay, another question here for our Camtasia users. If you're satisfied with this intro, you can save and export this and then import it into a Camtasia file. I think the deep question in this is, what do you export this as?
Thank you. I can't believe I forgot that. I think I was so busy about how to work within it. Let's figure out how to export. So you can save things as certain files within After Effects itself, but the best way to do it is to export it through the media encoder queue. This does two things. It has more options, specifically in MP4, which you cannot do just in the render queue in After Effects. Media encoder queue allows you to do an MP4, as well, it allows you to continue working on projects here while it's rendering in the separate program, Media Encoder. So we'll click on Media Encoder Q. It's loading. You can't see, but it's loading. And it makes it so it's a lot. It'll populate in this window, depending on the file size. And while it's doing that, I'll show you. You want to make sure that your composition settings, after I erased that one scene, it shortened the and you also see I was on color when I told it to export. Oh, I'm so glad that happened. So it shortened where our video ends. So it just ends there and it's just that blank screen. So you got to make sure that you go to where you want it to end. Let's see, we want it to end here at 57 seconds because that's when the last one goes. We'll go into composition settings. Change that here from 1 minute and 1 second. We'll change it to 57 seconds. And then that's where the composition will end. But here's the problem. I was in this composition of color when I pressed for it to render, but I want it to be in the final comp. In this case, it will be okay because this is only composed of that, but it shows, you can see that this is set to 101 as well rather than 57, and so we would need to go ahead and change that composition setting. We'll change that to 57. Okay, now in the Media Encoder queue, it still has this one open. I'm going to erase that so that we don't get confused when we tell it to do the new one. Go into composition and add to a media queue. Media Encoder queue, and then it will appear here when it is ready. Now, there are a few things you can change. This H.264 will be in MP4. You can see here in the output name, it shows you that. It defaults to the title of whatever composition it is you're exporting, so you'll know, like oh, I accidentally did color, it'll say color there. You can change any of these settings. It has different resolutions for different purposes. Like if you want to do it as a Facebook video, we're going to leave it here on high bit rate. We're going to leave it on H.264, and then you will assign it where you want to go. Let's say I want to assign it in this webinar folder right here as a final comp MP4. Push save. You can change if you don't want it to have the audio, if you do want it to have the audio, if you want the file size to be smaller, you can change the sample rate. I just went ahead and did that for the video to show you. And then mostly, but don't let yourself get intimidated. Mostly the defaults are just, you'll want to leave them what they are. Right? And it'll default that the audio is there and the video is there. And it'll default the like highest settings with the best resolution. And then it's easier, and I would recommend this when you export a video, to do it in the highest resolution because it's easier to change that, to diminish that file size post-production than it is to make it a better quality. So I would export it at the highest quality, and you can always diminish it later through more easily through other things. So you go ahead and click OK. And then you don't just click OK, it's not rendering. You have to come up here and push play till it's do it. While it's doing this, you see it might take several minutes. It tells you how much time it might take, but because it's in this separate program, it's in the Media Encoder, you can go back in here and keep working on other projects, because sometimes you're exporting projects that might take, and I've had this happen, 2 days to render. For school, I had some projects that required that much time. It looks like this one is going to take pretty good time as well. While you go into the webinar where I exported it, you can see that the final comp is there. You can see that it has not finished yet because the file size is still 0. And it will also tell you when it's complete here. This is going to take too much time. It's going to take 8 minutes, so we're not going to wait that whole time. But then you can just click on it here and view it when it's done. And it shows you where it's at in the rendering as it goes. So then I would take that MP4, answering the Camtasia question. I would then take this MP4 and drag that into Camtasia and use it there.
So that should answer that question.
That's yeah. 10 minutes later.
One other question. We are plumb out of time, but in fact, you know what, we'll just have to talk about that one another time. Maybe we'll get that listed in the blog. We want to know a little bit more about adjusting fill boxes if your text is too much, like if Hawaii was 400 letters longer, how are you going to fit that and adjust those text boxes? But we're out of time. We'll maybe list that in a blog later.
And we did address that. If you want to go back in the video, we addressed it when I changed the word to punctilious.
Yes, and that was a very long word, and that did make some changes. I'm going to take the screen back from you here for a moment.
Go right ahead.
So there have been questions about where people can access these templates, these After Effects templates. For those of you that have Captivate and are using the Captivate subscription, unfortunately, this is not enough. I mean, these are not included inside of the Captivate subscription, so you'd need a separate account. And you can try those out with our free 7-day trial. You can give us a call at 801-796-2767 or just visit eLearningBrothers.com, and in the top corner you'll see a free trial button where you can sign up for that, and you can start downloading some awesome After Effects templates from our stock asset library. Thank you, Jonica. This has been super useful. Thanks everybody for visiting us. We hope that you had information that you wanted, that you were able to get that, and that you'll join us in future webinars. Thanks everybody.